I am so excited. I am also going to turn off Robin, unfortunately, so that we can just focus on you. Welcome, Avery. Thank you so much for being here. For those of you who don't know, and most of you probably already do, Avery Swartz is a tech writer, a digital marketing consultant, and a speaker. She's the founder and CEO of Camp Tech. She helps small businesses, charities, and nice people understand technology and use it to meet their goals. Recently, she wrote a best-selling book about digital marketing called See You on the Internet. If you're part of Grow Class, you can probably, see it in some of our videos. You will also have seen Avery on CTV Your Morning. She's always on Canada's largest morning show, and she writes often for the Globe and Mail. So thank you so much for joining us to teach us a little bit about what the fuck is SEO. I said a swear.
That's what it is. We can swear. It's good. I like it. Thank you, Sarah. I'm so excited. Should we just dive right in? Let's just get into it. So friends, I'm going to share my screen with you because I got a little bit of a presentation. We're gonna walk through to talk about WTF is SEO. And like Sarah said, there's a lot going on in the chat, which is at the bottom of your screen. Also, the Q&A is where you can drop your questions. We're gonna have some moments where we answer some questions and probably a lot at the end. And for any of you that are concerned, your video and your microphone are not on. So you don't need to be worried about can you be seen or heard. So lovely to see all of you here. I recognize the names that I know in the chat. So I'm just so glad to be doing this here with you. And let's dive in. So Sarah already covered, oh, right, but no, this is important actually before we dive in. This is the thing you need to write down, friends, and maybe even Sarah can drop it in the chat. You can download these slides, and I've made them a PDF, and you can download it at camptech.ca/WTF is SEO. That's the link that you need to download these slides so that you can act them out for your friends and family later on. Sarah already said who I am, so that's who I am. We'll move on past that. But in the context of SEO, I can tell you that I ran a web design studio for about 10 years. And then started to get really into digital marketing, even more than that, particularly digital marketing fundamentals. And I really, really love teaching people about them and writing about them and just making them a little bit more understandable. So if you're kind of new to SEO, or if you've heard a lot about it, but you feel like you're kind of missing some of the basics, then this is for you today. So let's have some fun. This is what we're going to try and cover in the next 40 minutes or so. So we're going to move pretty quickly, but it's not too technical. We're going to talk about what the F SEO even is, how search works, because if we don't understand how search works, then we can't use it to our advantage. And then we're going to talk about the three main areas of SEO in a fundamental SEO strategy, which is on-page SEO tactics, off-page SEO tactics, and local SEO. And if you're like, Avery, what are those things? Don't worry, friends. We're going to talk about them and introduce them and explain them when we get to them. And we're going to talk about measurement, always important, and then have some time for Q&A at the end. So let's dive right in. Again, download these slides, camptech.ca/WTF is SEO. So WTF is SEO. I'm going to assume that you have probably heard this phrase, but you maybe kind of aren't really exactly sure what SEO is. So there are a jabillion definitions of SEO floating around online, but the one that I like the most, that I think is probably the most succinct, is this one. SEO stands for search engine optimization. And search engine optimization is the name given to any activity that attempts to improve organic search engine rankings. And when I talk about organic search engine rankings, I don't mean are they, free range, were they grown on a beautiful farm? What I mean by this is not paid. Organic means the parts of Google, and we will be mostly talking about Google because there are lots of other search engines out there, but Google does own the lion's share of the search industry. And everything that you do to optimize for Google actually is kind of the same thing that you would do to optimize for all of the other search engines out there. So I'm going to talk a lot about Google, but when I say Google, imagine that I'm talking about Google and kind of all of the other search engines out there, like Bing, like Yahoo, like DuckDuckGo, I don't know, Ask Jeeves, you know, all of those other ones that are out there. And so what we're talking about is how you improve your ranking for your business or your organization in an organic way. So that means not paid. We are not going to talk about Google ads today. That is a totally different subject, one that you can learn at Grow Class. Okay, so why should you care? You know, I assume you care at least a little bit because you're here today, but you know, we have this stat that says that 89% of consumers use search engines to inform their purchase decisions. You probably, you know, identify with this being a consumer yourself. A lot of us just jump into Google to do some, you know, product or service research before we are potentially making a purchase. I really like SEO because I see it as being a long-term and stable way of growing your business. This isn't a kind of flash in the pan digital marketing solution where, you know, you just throw a bunch of money at something and then it kind of gives you a temporary spike on the internet and then goes away. Good SEO is like low and slow. You know, you just keep working away at it over time, and then you will see some beautiful payoffs. Also, technically, because we're talking about organic SEO, this does not cost anything. It will cost you some time, and time is money for sure. But in terms of, you know, we're not writing tens of thousands of dollars in checks, or who uses checks? We're not, you know, sending money through the internet to advertisers to get our SEO to work for us. So let's talk about how search works, because if we understand how search works, then we can kind of reverse engineer it for our own benefit, really. And I want to start by talking about a concept with how search works that when I learned this, I actually kind of didn't really believe it at first, but see if you can kind of follow this thought and take my word for it because it is true. So Google and other search engines work in three main ways. So the first thing they do is, and sorry, well, it's not really the first thing they do because this is cyclical. This happens over and over and over again. But the way that Google works is it crawls the web. And that is the technical term that Google uses. They call it crawling. And the robots and computers that they use that crawl the web to index its content, they call those robots and those computers spiders, which is a disgusting phrase and gives me the heebie-jeebies. But it's kind of like the idea that, you know, the internet is a web and then they're crawling through the web because spiders, webs, ugh, gross. Anyway. So the way that Google kind of kicks things off is it looks through websites and everything that's on the web, and it indexes the content of those sites. Then you're probably familiar with point number two. Actually, no, you're familiar with point number three, excuse me. Point number two is Google looking at that index that it has of the web and sorting through all of the content and ranking all of the pages of the entire internet, which is kind of a wild idea in scale and scope when you think about it. But Google crawls through the web, indexes its content, then it sorts through the web pages and ranks them. And we're going to talk about what some of those ranking factors are in just a second. And then when somebody like you goes to Google, you know, you pop open a web browser or you go to an app on your phone and you do a search, you know, and in the marketing world, we call that the search query. But it just means typing in a Google search, right? So you do a search. Google is trying to analyze your search. And Google has spent, you know, millions of dollars on technology to try and figure out what the intention of the searcher is. So they're doing everything they can to try and kind of sniff out what it is that you're looking for. And then they serve the results that they think best matches what you're looking for. But friends, this is the part that's really, really, really important. Google is not serving you results from the live internet. Google serves you results from their own index of the live internet. Now, their index moves fast, and it gets updated quite quickly for certain sites. So, you know, if you go to Google and you type in a search query, you might see a result that's very, very fast, particularly from news organizations or social media sites like Twitter. And it looks like Google is serving you like in the moment live results, but technically you're not. You're not searching the live internet. You're searching Google's index of the internet. This is a really, really important concept because we need to know what goes into that Google index and that ranking, so then we can kind of reverse engineer it for our own websites. So hopefully that makes sense to you. It's an important point that Google is actually searching their own index of the web. Here's a graphic if you like images. It basically says exactly what I just said to you, but just in a more graphic format. And the idea is that this is a cycle that just goes around and around and around. Google crawls sites, builds an index, calculates the relevancy and ranking, serves results to people, keeps crawling sites, keeps building the index, keeps calculating. And this is a never-ending thing. And this is why, for you, as people that are going to be, SEO experts, SEO never stops. You never stop optimizing because Google's going to come back around again and keep crawling your site. So you keep optimizing more and it's a fun ride that you can never get off of. So people always ask, what are some of the things that Google looks at when ranking websites for, that index and how they're ranking websites for the search engine results. Friends, Google's algorithm is the multi-billion-dollar secret. If I knew absolutely everything that went into Google's algorithm, I would be a gazillionaire and I'd be hanging on my own private island right now, and I would invite you all to come and hang with me with proper physical distancing. But what we do know from what Google publicly has said through their blogs and through their updates to the search community, they've said that there's over 200 different factors that go into their search algorithm, and they've told us about like 20 or 30 of those. And some of the things that they have told us is that they do consider how much web traffic the site gets, how much time people spend on the site, how many pages people visit in their session, meaning like how many pages people visit when they are visiting the site, and in that one visit, how many pages do they visit. We're going to talk about backlinks. Google does consider content length. Google likes websites that have at least 300 words on them. Sorry, web pages. Google likes content to be at least 300 words per page. But then there's like this totally like big hot debate in the SEO community about whether or not pages can be too long. So most professional SEOs will tell you like anywhere between 300 and 2,000 words per page. But your mileage may vary with that one, so you can kind of watch it. Google really likes websites to be secure using HTTPS. Google also really likes websites that are mobile friendly. And then of course, keyword relevancy. So what I mean by that is how much does what somebody types into Google match up with the actual words on your site? Like that's kind of a big deal, right? And then there's like 200 other things that they won't tell us about. So when we SEO, what we do is we look at all of these things and we try and optimize for them so that hopefully we can like boost up our performance in search engine rankings. Really, really, really important note, friends. SEO is not about trying to be number one in Google, and especially any of you that are client facing. If you're working with your clients and they might say to you like, "We want to be number one in Google," then you like pat them on the head and you very gently say, "Oh, you sweet thing, there is no such thing as number one in Google." Because if all of us on this webinar right now, if we all went to Google and typed in the exact same key phrase, like a string of words, into Google, we would all get different results because Google is giving up personalized results to each searcher that are based on things that it knows about the searcher. Things like your geographic location, your past search history, some other kind of creepy stuff Google may or may not know about you. So there kind of isn't a number one in Google anymore. There's more likelihood that you will appear in the top results for more people, but really, doing SEO is not about trying to win the internet. Doing good SEO is about trying to make a love match. I like to think of Google as being this like matchmaker between the searcher and the true intent of that searcher and what you are offering on your website. And like Google's trying to make a really, really nice like love match between the searcher and the website. And that's why they are so freaking good at what they do, because they are the best matchmaker out there in terms of search engines. So let's talk about some of the strategies that you can use to hopefully make a better, like just kind of help Google understand you a little bit better so that you can get those really, really good love matches. Okay, so the first one is keyword research. So what we want to do in this case, and this is really, really good homework for you, is to think backwards. When you're thinking about your website or your client's website, I want you to be thinking, what could the ideal customer or client for that organization, what could somebody be searching for to then find you? And this really means that sometimes you have to put yourself aside, or you have to tell your client to just like shush for a minute in the nicest possible way. Because oftentimes when people are searching, they might not use the same words to describe a product or a service. They probably don't even necessarily know some of the industry jargon that you might use. So you've got to be thinking like a searcher. And how I do this when I am trying to do some SEO optimization for my own clients is I start with a giant list. I like to make my list in a spreadsheet, but I don't care. Make it on a napkin. Doesn't matter. Doesn't have to be high tech. What I want you to do is just make a list of every keyword. And keywords are not just words. They can be a phrase as well. It can be a string of words. I want you to make a list of every keyword you can think of that somebody might be searching for the organization as a whole, and then also for the individual products, services, projects, whatever you've got going on. When you are making this like list, don't edit it yet. First, just brainstorm. It's a dump of a whole bunch of words. So you'll probably want to start with short words, which is, you know, like let's say you're a shoe store. Maybe you write shoes on your keyword list. But what I want you to also include on your keyword list are what we call long tail keywords. And a long tail keyword is something that some really, really smart people in the search industry started to notice some trends. And we're at least a decade into this trend, and it still holds up. This is the idea that when searchers, so people on the internet, type certain phrases into a Google search, the shorter the phrase is, there tends to be more search volume, aka competition for that phrase. But the shorter the phrase that somebody types in, the less likely they are to convert. And for those that aren't familiar with the concept of conversion is a marketing jargon term that just means people doing what you want them to do. You know, buying something, filling out a contact form, calling you on the phone, you know, clicking a video, whatever it is that you want them to do. All these search, you know, geniuses basically found that when people type in longer phrases into Google, it indicates that they're more serious in their search. So you're going to have a lower competition, so a lower search volume. You're not going to have as many people in what we call long tail keywords, but you are going to potentially have higher conversion rate. So when you're making your list of keywords that you could potentially have, you know, on your website that the people might be searching for, I want to see a mix on that list. I want to see short phrases, and I also want to see some longer phrases. And you can see here in this example what some of those kind of long tail keywords can look like with this example. And this is from SEM Rush, which is a really, really great, SEM stands for Search Engine Marketing. This is a really great SEO and SEM company. They've got a whole bunch of great resources, and I stole this screenshot from them, so hopefully they do not mind. So here's, oh, look at that. I just kind of described this. So this is just kind of the idea of long tail keywords, again, written out. What's really, really important to remember, friends, is that if you're trying to optimize a website for Google that has, you know, there might be a small business, that might be an organization that isn't going to get, you know, a whackload of web traffic, that isn't going to have a lot of other buzz around it. You potentially want to play a little bit more in the long tail, because when we're talking about, let's say, a small business that makes handmade goods, they probably are not going to be able to compete against some of the really big online conglomerate kind of sites like, you know, Amazon and a whole bunch of others. But they may be able to compete on those long tail, more specific phrases. Like, as opposed to handmade goods, they might not be able to rank in the top 10, but a long phrase like where to buy handmade soap in Toronto, then they may actually be able to rank for. So that's kind of the strategy with long tail keywords. And the strategy with kind of any keyword in SEO is, again, that idea of trying to get as many searchers as possible, but also as low competition as possible for other people on that particular search phrase. So you're making a list, right? You're making a list, you're adding your short tail, you're adding in your long tail keywords. The next thing you can do is you can use Google's autocomplete feature. And the reason why I include this is because it's free and it's easy to do. So if you just go to google.ca, google.com, and start typing in one of your short tail keywords, don't click enter. See what Google pops up. Google will always serve you 10 results that are based on, yes, they are a little bit based on your individual search history. So if you can, use an incognito window or a private browsing window in your web browser. But Google will serve up what it thinks you're trying to look for based on the top kind of 10 trends on the internet with those words. So again, we're generating a list, right? We're trying to brainstorm as many possible keywords as we can. This is another tool that you can use to help you just add more and more and more of those keywords to your list. And then another tool you can use are all of the keyword research tools that are out there. There are so many. Most of these are on like the freemium model, where you can do a few searches for free, and then you have to pay. But all of these, there's 3 here. There's like, if you just do a Google search for like keyword research tool, you'll come up with so many. They all kind of do the same thing. They tap into this publicly available kind of database of Google's information, and it's the same thing that this autocomplete thing taps into. And they'll give you a little bit of information both about keywords that are popular, and then also what they think the potential competition is for those keywords. Because when you're making that keyword list, you want to be, you know, just doing a brain dump, all the keywords you can possibly think of that somebody might use. But you're also kind of thinking about, like, is this word really, really highly competitive? Like, for example, let's say you are trying to optimize a website that's a shoe store, makes really, really beautiful boots or something. You're probably not going to be able to rank in the top 10 on Google for the phrase shoes. That is going to be locked up. Like, we've got Amazon, we got Zappos, we've got like all the big department stores. Like, they are probably going to outrank you for the keyword phrase shoes. So that's a high competition keyword. So you could put the word shoes on your list of possible keywords, but just be you know, realistic about whether or not you're actually going to be able to get some search traffic on that keyword, as opposed to those more long tail keywords that I was talking about. So after you've made your list, you just kind of, like, again, you've done your brain dump, then you start editing. And when you go through your list, you want to edit it down by answering these 4 questions for your keywords. Is there actually traffic for that keyword? You may have some like super niche phrase that like perfectly describes exactly what your business is, but if nobody's using that phrase in Google, then don't try to optimize for it. It's kind of like that, like if a tree falls in the forest and no one's there to hear it. Like, if you're optimizing for a keyword that nobody actually uses, then like kind of no point. Then the next thing is what I was talking about there. Is the keyword too competitive? And then, is it actually relevant to what you're offering? There used to be this, what we call a black hat style of doing search engine optimization, where you would like just try and do what's called keyword stuffing. You would like jam your website with all kinds of really popular keywords. You'd put them like down in the footer of your website, or you do something really scammy, like you'd put them in white text with a white background so humans can't see the words, but the robots, like the Google spiders, could actually see those words. None of that stuff works, friends. It doesn't work. Google like comes up with updates to their algorithms that just like totally cuts that stuff out. So you want to make sure that the keywords that you're trying to optimize for are actually relevant to what you're offering in your organization. And then secondly, of course, you know, to that same point, do you actually have content for that keyword? Could you write a blog post about it? Could you write a paragraph? Could you write a short Q&A? Some people are asking a great question about how do you know if there's traffic for that keyword? And thank you, Mo, for dropping in a link in the chat. A lot of these tools, like Google has this keyword planner that Mo dropped in the chat. Also, Neil Patel's Uber Suggest, the Moz Explorer, all of these keyword research tools will actually tell you whether or not there is traffic for a particular keyword. And looks like, you know, Sarah, oh, look at all the knowledge that's being dropped in the chat right now. I love it. Check it out, friends. Okay, so hopefully you're with me so far. That is the concept of keywording. So you make your list, right? And then you edit your list. Then you need to do something like that. Oh, Mo, in the chat, can you make sure that can you just share that link again so that it's viewable to all panelists and attendees instead of just all panelists? He shared the link that's down here at the bottom, the Google Ads Keyword Planner. And again, you can download these slides so you can check out these links yourself later. Slides are available at camptech.ca/WTF is SEO. Okay, so you've got your keyword list, right? And now you're like, amazing. What are you gonna do with that keyword list? You gotta put those keywords somewhere. Now we talk about on-page SEO tactics. On-page means on your website. And I love these SEO tactics because they are the most attainable for most people, because most people have the ability to edit their website themselves. Everything else we're going to talk about after this point is like, I don't have access to that. That's a bit harder to do. But on-page SEO, you probably can go in and change the content of your site. So you take all your keywords. Now we're just going to throw them at your website. We're going to put those keywords into your website, but we're not just going to put them anywhere. We have to put them in specific search-friendly places. So in order of importance, friends, this is where I want you to put those keywords. Number one, I want you to have search-friendly URL. So what I mean by that is, you know, you got your domain name, right? So you've got your like averyisawesome.com or whatever it might be. Then, depending on what you call the pages of your website, you may be able to control what comes after the slash. So you've got your main domain name, which in itself probably is a bit of a key word. It probably is the name of your company or the name of the organization or something. Then what comes after the slash, Google pays a lot of attention to that. So I was helping a friend with some SEO recently, super cool business. His wife is a professional cat trainer. Like, she trains cats the way people can train dogs, and she's like super successful at it. It's amazing. And so I was helping him make a website. Well, he was making the website, but I was giving some tips. And I asked him to make sure that he put some of his specific keywords in those page URLs, so that when you went to, I think it's happykitty.ca. If you went to happykitty.ca, if you were on the services page, it wasn't just /services. It was happykitty.ca/cat training services. Stuff like that, because Google really does look at what those actual words are in the URL of a web page. Next up, meta tags. People used to talk about meta tags a lot in terms of SEO. A lot of that information is kind of old school and has fallen, you know, like Google doesn't look at it so much, but there are two things that Google definitely looks at. They look at site title, which is like the name of your website. And then they also look at depending on what web builder you might be using, it can either be called the site description or the meta description. And I'm just going to jump ahead a slide right now to just kind of give you a sense of where this appears in a Google search. So here's a screenshot of me Googling my own company. You can see a search-friendly URL. I was typing in the name Camp Tech into search. So of course, camptech.ca is going to come up because it's right in the URL. Then my site title, Camp Tech. Make your site title no more than 55 to 60 characters, because that's how much can easily fit in a Google search result. If your site title is longer than 55 or 60 characters, it will either get cut off or it'll roll onto the next line. And then your site description, and some people call this meta description, it's the same thing. Usually it's in the settings of your website. If you're in WordPress, it'll be in the settings. If you're in Shopify, Squarespace, it's always in the settings somewhere. It's like the description of your website. That actually appears in Google search results right underneath the site title. Same thing with this. You want to make sure it's not too long, or you're going to end up like mine. You see how mine has a ... on it? That's because I made my site description too long, so I need to go and change that. That's how search-friendly URL, site title, and site description plays out. Then the next area that you need to be putting your keywords, and you can double up on keywords. It's not like you can only use them once. Like you can have the same keyword be in a few different places. I want you to make sure that your keywords are actually in your headings of your website. So I want you to be using, some like really nice H1s, like big, it's a kind of a trend in web design to have a big statement. I want some keywords in that H1. Then next, I want some keywords in that H2, which is like the second level heading on a web page. If you have a third level heading, because Google knows that, words that appear in headings are usually more important than words that appear just in paragraph text. You also do want to have keywords in your body text. You also want to have keywords in internal links. Google really likes it when websites have links to other pages within your own website. So you can do this in a totally conversational, normal way. Let's say you have a services page and you say, for more information about this service, please get in touch. We'd love to hear from you. Like make sure that the name of the service or whatever the keyword you're trying to optimize for, make sure that it's in that link. So instead of just saying, for more information about our services, contact us, say, for more information about our cat training services, please contact us. Slightly different way of saying it, but you're getting that keyword in the link that then takes people to the contact page, and then hopefully they call you. Okay, friends, let's talk about alt tags for a minute. Alt tags or alt text is a way for you to put information on your website to describe images. Alt is short for alternative, and we shorten it and we just say alt because I guess we're way too busy to say full words anymore. Alternative text on images is first and foremost for accessibility purposes. What that means is for people that cannot read images, or sorry, who cannot see images, mostly the blind. If you've ever seen anybody who's blind use screen reader software, it's super cool. Screen reader software is what runs on blind people's computers and other people as well. But in this instance, a blind person could use it to read the internet to them. And it reads a web page aloud. Super, super cool. Can read all the words, la, 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 la. But when it gets to an image, it can't read an image. So what it looks for is something called alternative text, which is something that you have to put in. It's the law in Ontario. You have to put alternative text on your images. And alternative text should describe what the image is. So if someone couldn't see the image, it could describe it to them. If it's a picture of a cute puppy, write cute puppy. You don't need to say image of, that's already kind of taken care of for you. You just describe what the picture is. So alt text is first and foremost for accessibility, but Google also looks at alt text. And alt text is on images is also what powers a lot of Google image search. So accessibility first, SEO second. See how clever you can be in your alt text to potentially solve for both. So let's say you have that picture of that cute puppy, or let's keep going with this cat training analogy. Let's say it's a picture of a cute kitten. So instead of potentially just saying cute kitten, you could say cute kitten being trained by Happy Kitty Train Services or cat training services or something. So you're describing the image, but you're also getting your keywords in there. If you can't achieve both, then just go for the accessibility one. Please, we got to make the web accessible for everyone. That's more important than SEO. I see your questions. I'm not going to answer them right now. I'm just going to keep going, but hang on to your questions or pop them in the Q&A and we will get to them because I still have a lot of stuff to tell you about. So that's keywords and putting keywords throughout your website. Okay. Actually, I'm going to skip that slide. It was funny, but I'm going to skip it. Keep moving. The next big thing I want to tell you about in terms of SEO is something that's known as off-page SEO tactics. So one of the big things I want you to know coming out of this webinar is how Google actually works. I want you to know about how to do proper keywording, how to optimize your web pages for keywording. And then I want you to know about this next thing I'm about to teach you, which is called backlinking. So backlinking is a key component of off-page SEO tactics. And when I say off-page, I mean, this is not your actual website. This is not something that you can do on your site. This is the entire greater internet and how the greater internet tells Google about you and your organization. So Google has this concept called backlinking. And a backlink is a link from another website. And yes, this can include social media, but with a giant asterisk. We'll talk about that in just a minute. But a backlink is a link from another website that goes to your website. Google, because again, remember they got the spiders, the creepy, weird spiders crawling the entire web. One of the things that Google's looking at is the relationship between different sites on the web. So Google knows how many links there are out in the greater web that link to you and they link to your site. Google considers a link from another website to yours as a vote of confidence in your website. And when we do backlinking, what we want to do is we want to strive for quality of backlinks, but we also do strive for quantity of backlinks. So if you don't understand what the concept of backlinking is, my favorite analogy for backlinking is it's like the movie Mean Girls. And if you have not seen Mean Girls, it is a quality film. I think you should watch it tonight. But even if you're not familiar with Mean Girls, it's a story about a girl that's been homeschooled her whole life, and then she gets dropped into high school. And then some people are mean to her. It's very entertaining, very funny. So if you can imagine in Mean Girls, how the new girl comes to school, it's like high school, right? So on the very first day, she shows up in high school. Nobody knows her. She doesn't know anyone. She goes to the cafeteria in school, and all of a sudden, the most popular person in school sits down next to her. This person went from being a complete unknown, like a totally unknown entity in the school, to all of a sudden having the most popular person in school sitting next to her. What does that do for the stranger's reputation? It makes everybody else in the cafeteria look up and go, ooh, who is that? Where did she come from? Oh my gosh, she must be hot stuff because the coolest girl in school just sat down next to her. That's how backlinking works. When you're a new website on the web, Google doesn't know anything about you. They're like, what's this new thing? I don't know. Is it a big deal? Is it not? I can't tell. So it looks to other websites to see how many websites link to you and are potentially sharing you. And then if all of a sudden you've got, like, I don't know, Beyonce linking to you from her website, oh, could we imagine the SEO potential of that for a moment? Then Google will be like, ooh, this new website must be a hot commodity. I think we should give it a little bit of a boost in those search engine rankings. So that's how backlinking works. It is like the holy grail for SEOs. And when you hire a professional SEO company, this is what a lot of them will spend time doing, trying to get those backlinks for you. So where do you get backlinks? First and foremost, go for the low-hanging fruit. Anywhere you already own on the internet, your own social media profiles, if you own another website, like go in and like get a link from that goes to your site. Like go for it, why not? If you can be listed in a professional association, a directory, an online guild, anything like that, do it. Vendor listings, if you're a vendor and can be listed in a vendor listing directory. If you're ever featured in the press, it doesn't even have to be like big time press, just blogs and news sites, if you can get them to include a link to you. Guest blogging is a big one. If you're someone that enjoys writing and you could potentially contribute to another publication. Side note, this is totally why I write for the Globe and Mail, so that I can get that link back to my site. If you like writing, go for it. Go and write a guest blog somewhere. If you don't like writing, then you don't have to do this. You can also comment on other people's blogs and sites, but there is a little bit of like this little stickler thing, which is like not all links that come from comments on all sites actually give you an SEO boost. And I'll just kind of leave it at that, because it can get really technical really fast. But don't just like double down on that being your own backlink strategy. So the idea is just like over time, you know, think about all the places you could potentially ask for a link. You know, where could you be commenting? Where could you be, you know, adding content on the web that would hopefully then backlink to you? And that's, again, one of these things where it's like SEO takes time. Like, just keep hammering away at it, right? Let's talk about social media and SEO for 5 seconds. There is a relationship between social media activity and the number of links that are being shared to your website on social media and your ranking in Google. But you can't just lean on social media for your backlinking strategy. It's not going to give you, you know, a huge SEO boost if that's all you're focusing on. I want you to focus on some of these other things as well. But if you are going to post on social media, first of all, you just made this giant list of keywords. Totally use a lot of those in your social media posting as well. And these are the social signals that we know that Google likes. Google likes to see links to your website coming from a number of different platforms. So I mean, like Twitter, Facebook, Pinterest, LinkedIn, YouTube. I don't know, what are the other ones out there? Snapchat. There's all kinds of other social media sites, but Google likes to see links coming, or links to your site on lots of different platforms. Also know that it doesn't have to be you sharing the link. Google's looking to see the authority of the users that are sharing the link on those social media sites. Also, just the total number of shares that you're getting from social media sites. They want to know whether or not there's keyword relevance between what the posting actually was. So if you're going to tweet, or if you're going to post on Facebook, they do want to see that the keywords that are being used in that social media post actually line up with the keywords that are on your site. And then, of course, they're looking for that that referral traffic that's coming through from social media. One final concept, friends, before we flip this over to questions. Oh, corgi break. Ah, should have done that. Have a sip of water. It's good. Watch the corgis for a minute. Okay. One final concept before we flip this over to questions, and that is the concept of local SEO. And this is something that's been really big in the last couple of years. It's something that Google has really put a lot of attention and resources into. Google wants to serve local results to people. And, you know, this works for all of us. This works for all of us when we're, you know, just using Google ourselves. If I search for you know, pizza that I want to eat later on tonight, it does not serve me well if Google is giving me results for like the best pizza in Austin, Texas. Like, I'm sure it's hella good pizza, but it's not going to be in my mouth later today. So if I'm searching for pizza, I want local Toronto results when I search for pizza. So if the business that you're trying to optimize online, so if it's your business, or if you're working with a client, if it's your client's business, if they have a local presence, you really, really want to try and optimize for local SEO. If they don't have a local presence, like they're more just like a global company or a nationwide company or even a province-wide company, then take a 5-minute mental holiday. This is not for you. This is for businesses that have a really, really local presence. And more often than not, that means they probably have a bricks and mortar location. So if you do have a bricks and mortar location, or if you are serving a local local community, then you must have a presence on Google My Business. Google My Business is this free service So basically, why wouldn't you use it? It's made by Google, so you can tell them more information about your biz. Google My Business is what makes that info panel over on the side of Google search when information about a business comes up. Or if you're on a mobile device, it actually comes at the top of search before other stuff comes in. So why wouldn't you go for this? It's free. It's not that hard to do. So you do that at, I think it's google.com/business. So sign up for that, fill out all the information. Then there is this other thing, there's this concept inside local SEO called citations. And citations are, it's the idea that if you have a listing on a website that's known as a citation site, and if it matches three key things, if your business listing on these citation websites matches up with the name, the phone number, and the address, or name, address, phone number, NAP, NAP, that's what the cool kids call it. They call it a NAP citation. If your business's name, address, and phone number match up on more than one citation site, then Google's like, oh, it must be a legitimate business. And it kind of like gives it like a little bit of a vote of legitimacy in local Google search. So citation sites are like Google My Business, like duh, they like that one because they made it. But you could also be on Bing Places, you can be on Apple Maps, Yelp.ca, Yellow Pages, Better Business Bureau. The whole point here is not about having like a listing that is like raging on the Better Business Bureau. And I mean raging like cool, not raging like people getting mad at your business. The whole point of this is so that you have listings in various places where the information checks back against itself so that Google can better understand that, yes, you actually are this name, you are this address, you are this phone number, therefore you must be a valid local business. And then you will be, you know, potentially getting a little bit of a boost in that local SEO. So, friends, let's wrap this up so I can answer some of your wonderful questions. You always got to measure this stuff, right? And especially because SEO is this ongoing game. You're always working away at it. So like, I love making like SEO checklists. So it's like, okay, this month we're going to optimize, you know, this month we're going to make the list of keywords. Next month, we're going to optimize 3 pages of the site. We're also going to try and get 5 backlinks. Then the month after that, we're going to optimize 3 more pages of the site. We're going to try and get 5 more backlinks. Then after that, and after that, and after that. I got to tell you, friends, at my company, Camp Tech, I kind of know a thing or two about this. So I focused on this in really, really early, the early years of the company. The company is now 8 years old. And because we just like have just been chipping away every single month, I swear it's on our to-do list. It's like, go and get a few backlinks this month. It means that we have a much stronger SEO presence than some like venture-backed companies that are in our competitive sphere. We often rank higher than they do, even though we're like a little like 3-person company. Time SEO, there is an element of time here. It's not really like an 8-day, it's more like an 8-month sort of thing. But you just kind of keep chipping away at it and keep chipping away at it so that when Google comes around and crawls your site again, you know, there's more information that it's indexing and then you see those results. So how you measure, how you know how you're doing? First and foremost, look at your Google Analytics. If you're seeing more organic search traffic, you must be doing something right. And then you can also use a tool like Moz or SEMrush. Now these tools cost a bit of money, so you're looking at, you know, $20 to $30 a month. If you're really doing a big SEO blitz, it might be worth it to actually pay for Moz or SEMrush. And there's others as well, but those are the 2 that I really like personally, to just keep chipping away at you know, how you're doing and tuning up on your SEO. So we're going to answer questions now, but the last thing I have to say to you, last 3 things. Number 1, camptech.ca/WTF is SEO. That's where you can download these slides. Number 2, I wrote a book. You should buy it. What you just saw was pretty much the SEO chapter of my book. There's a whole bunch of other chapters about all kinds of things like email marketing, you know, content, websites, accessibility, all kinds of stuff. seoontheinternet.com. It's available in print format, ebook, even audiobook. I went into the studio and recorded it. So if you go on Audible, you can download it. You can listen to me in your ears. 5.5 hours of Avery in your ears. I don't know why you would want to do that to yourself, but you can if you want. We're going to pop into the chat. Sarah's going to moderate. She's going to ask me some questions. Friends, make a donation today, please. Make a donation. I'm a really, really big fan, I got to say. How I do my donations a lot, I like to do monthly recurring donations. There's no such amount that's too small. I personally, I have $10 from my bank account every month that goes to the American Civil Liberties Union, because there's always something that those wonderful people are fighting. And right now we got a real problem. We got some serious racial injustice, but a lot of organizations doing a lot of good. So please make a donation, and no amount is too small. So I did this for you for free. Consider it your like karmic payback for me talking at you for 45 minutes. So let's jump in and answer some questions. Sarah Stockdale.
Thank you so much. That was amazing.
Woo.
You're wonderful. Thank you so much. Please make sure go to the link. You can donate to the ACLU or to the Love Land Foundation that supports mental wellness for Black girls and women. So Avery, let's get into some questions.
Do it.
I'm gonna get through as many as I can.
I can stick around for a while too. So
amazing.
I'm cool. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so Joella asks, how do you find a reputable SEO company? It's really hard to wade through all of the Fivers in the world.
Hottest tip is the least technical. Ask for references. Because a good SEO company, if they even know what they're doing, they should have really good SEO, and they probably optimize their web pages. So it's like, do not go to Google and type in best SEO company. You're not going to get some like objective results. Instead, and this is my advice for when you hire anyone, from like somebody to walk your dog to an SEO company, ask for references and then actually contact those people and just say, did you work with them? What was it like? Were they a total asshole, or were they great? What were the deliverables? How much did it cost? That's honestly what I think the best way to vet and hire SEO people are. You're probably not going to find them on Fiverr. You're probably not going to find good, really good SEO. Now, if you know what you're doing and you want to do things like you want to potentially like have some content written for you, or you want to potentially start to develop a bit of a backlink strategy, and you need someone to go on the web and then make a list for you of 10 places that are accepting submissions for guest posts, that's the kind of thing you may be able to outsource to somebody on Fiverr. But your entire SEO strategy, no way, baby. You're probably going to need the real pros.
Yeah. And this is another kind of related question, because, you know, you and I both see so much crap, so many bad consultants, so many awful companies that are offering things sometimes that aren't even realistic. So Lindley asks, is there an easy way to fix citations? We're working with someone who offered to do it for $50 a month. Is that a scam?
Like, I don't know what you can get for $50 a month. That sounds really low to me. Just to like in terms of benchmarking, a lot of like professional SEO companies that I know are charging, I don't usually ever see anybody charging less than at minimum $500 a month. And because they need a bit of time, like was I saying, like time is of the essence with SEO. Most SEO companies will put you on a minimum of a 3-month, usually a minimum of a 6-month package. So you're probably looking at like an investment of a few $1,000 at the very least, and it can easily go up from there depending on how much work they're doing. So $50 a month, unless it was a very limited scope of like just exactly we're just going to do this one thing, something about that sounds a bit off to me.
Yeah, me too. That's a red flag. Yeah, absolutely. This is a great question. So Aparna asks, what are the 3 to 5 most impactful things to address when optimizing for SEO on a site that was not built with an SEO strategy in mind?
Oh, that's the best thing about SEO is like, it's cool. You can do this anytime. Like, you don't have to be like, womp womp, I guess like that ship has sailed. Like, you can just jump in and start SEOing all over the place. I would say in order, like basically follow the order of today's presentation. Those are the things that I would do in order. So first I would get your house in order, which means like doing your own on-page SEO optimization. And that might take a few months. Totally cool. And then once you know that your site is optimized the way that you want it, meaning like you've got your keywords, you've sprinkled them in all the important places, then go out and start getting those backlinks. No point in like going to get a backlink that's just going to drive traffic to your garbage pile. Like, make your site optimized for that traffic before you go and say like, hey y'all, come on in, I got this like burning tire fire of a website. Like, tune up the website first, then try and go get the traffic. And then you can also do those local solutions if it's a local business as well.
Yeah. And that kind of leads me to the next question about local business. So when you have a business where you're a freelancer, Nicole's a videographer, they usually ask for an address if you want to appear in the business in a search. Is there a way to avoid that?
Yeah, you totally can. So when Google My Business, that thing that I was talking about where you can get that free listing, when it first came out, it only worked for places that have a physical address. And like, I don't want randos knocking on my front door. You might not want to, like, for all kinds of reasons, you might not want to put your home-based business actually in Google Maps, right?
No, not a good idea.
Yeah, no, don't do that. So you can have a Google My Business listing without putting in a physical address. Like there's an option now where it's just like a checkbox where it's like, do not, it says like home-based business, do not list my address. You still have to jump through the hoops of signing up for the account. Excuse me, but you still totally can optimize for local. And then in your on-page SEO, so when you're like dropping in those keywords, that's where you can get, like, this is why I love SEO, because it can be really, really creative and like in your copywriting to also get those keywords in there. And oh my gosh, Sarah, as you know, like copywriting is such an art, and it's humans first, robots second. Like, I don't want to see this, please. I don't want to see this like hyper SEO'd copywriting. I want you to be like these really creative, genius copywriters that can both appeal to humans with your words, but also sprinkle in like serving the greater Toronto area or whatever. Like, you know, then that's how you can get some of that local stuff in there without like, I mean, you know it when you look at a web page that like you can tell an SEO company just went wild on it, when they just have like all these like words, especially in the footer of the site, and I'm like, who is this for? Like, Google's smart. Google is smart, and they're always updating their algorithm. They are knocking down all of those tactics. So don't even try to do black hat SEO in the first place. It's just not going to work.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. Google is becoming like, that algorithm is, the robots have taken over at this point, the AI and the supercomputers have taken over, but they're just trying to help humans find the right thing as fast as possible. That's
that love match.
that's their whole job. And if your text is robotic, you're not helping the humans, so you're not helping. So Julia asks, if the site health percentage increased after on-page optimization was done, how can she measure if it helped on the SEO side?
Okay, so I'd ask, oh gosh, I'm so sorry, Julia, because that's a follow-up question of where were you measuring the site health in the first place?
Yeah, that is.
And which metric? Because there's a few different ways you can measure site health. But what I will say is this, and this is a more general term. When a site is optimized for SEO in proper, like, white hat ways, you are often also optimizing for accessibility. And you're also optimizing for there's a lot of things that Google likes in a site that also will enhance your site health. Like, Google likes that sites are secure. Google likes that sites are fast. Google likes that sites are mobile friendly. Google likes, now we're going to get a little nerdy, but Google really likes clean semantic markup in the hierarchy of code in your site. So if you're kind of hitting all of those things for an SEO perspective, you're also then going to be like, we also just solved our accessibility issue. We also just solved our site health issue. So it's not having to split all of your efforts. It's kind of going for awesome all in one way.
Amazing. And just for Julia says she's using SEMrush.
Oh, with SEMrush on the site health. Then yeah. So what was the original question again? It was like if you overhaul for SEO, will it?
If the overall site health increased, how can she measure if that impacted SEO?
Oh, then just look inside SEMrush, because they have their own measurement tools in there. So I haven't used SEMrush because lately I've been using Moz, but I used it about a year ago. And there is this thing where they're like, okay, here's your site health, and then there's the audit of the site, and then there's a measurement section in there.
Awesome. Very cool. So we've got another question. Will there be a difference if your site is hosted by someone else or created from scratch?
There can be. That's really getting down into the weeds, but there is a potential SEO issue based on where your site is hosted, but it's going to be so minuscule. I wouldn't worry about it.
Yeah. And then, so there's a couple of questions about social and social's impact on SEO. So people are kind of asking, how do you measure the authority of users sharing on social? How does promoting with social help? So what is the relationship there?
I mean, that's where it's really, really important to take a holistic view. And it can be a bit tough. Like if you're just in charge, like let's say you're client facing, let's say you're working with an organization, or even maybe within your own organization. Like if your portfolio is SEO and somebody else's portfolio is social media, it can be a bit like, well, who gets the point for that goal? Like, do you get it or do I get it? But if you're the same person, like if you're the only marketing person in the organization, or if you're the person that's helping the client, then like, who cares if it's a win for social media or a win for SEO? Like, basically, like when it comes to social media for SEO, I will say that it is lower priority than you think it might be. That there are other tactics that are more important for SEO. But that's not to say don't have a killer social media presence and social media strategy, but social media is kind of like a means to its own end. Yeah. And there will be like carryover to SEO, but my answer is kind of like, if we're speaking just purely in SEO sense, then social media is not that important in comparison to some of the other stuff that we talked about. But in a more holistic, like how to digitally market a website or an organization, then I want you to have really strong social media, and it will probably just have some spillover effect to SEO. But if you're like looking at like, oh, how do I measure the authority of the user sharing? Like, I don't know, like if you get retweeted by Oprah, like, duh, it's going to have a nice kind of impact on your social media and also on your SEO.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Okay, we have run 5 minutes over, so I want to give you your day back. Thank you so much for staying extra to answer those awesome questions. It was so great to have you. Avery Swartz, founder of Camp Tech. Her book is called See You on the Internet. It is incredible. It's on my shelf twice. I literally own 2 copies of it. And this was part of the Grow Class series, Growing in Challenging Times. Please, if you have the ability to, make a small donation to the Love Lamp Foundation or to the ACLU. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. Please keep an eye on our next session. We will be posting something very soon. Thank you so much, Avery.
Thank you.
Have an awesome day, everyone.